Hey team, Darcy here, wanting to shoot for you a 4-step discovery sales process that we teach to all of our project sales teams around the world. When used well, allows your buyer to start convincing themselves to you, as opposed to you feeling like you need to be the awkward, squeamish convincer going back the other way, doing all of the talking instead and essentially pushing away deals. So here's the 4 questions that you want to ask in any discovery process. The reason that this works overall is because it builds a really nice gap between where your buyer currently is and ultimately where they want to be. And the closing of that gap between where someone is and where they want to be is where all good deals sit. That's why anyone buys anything. It's why any purchasing decision is to be made, is to move someone from where they currently are to where they want to be. Here's the 4 questions to make that happen. The first question that you want to ask your buyer is, what is the backstory? Or another way of asking that is, what's the background or what's the story to this one or whatever it may be, okay? From that, you'll start to understand that your buyer has a context that they want to deliver to you. They want you to understand them on the level of what's called their context and their intention. So intention is an interesting one. We've all been that person potentially at a party or whatever it may be where we might have had one too many drinks and we made a particular joke or said a particular thing that took things just a little bit too far. And in that moment, we always think to ourselves, I wish people around could have understood the intention with why I just said what I said, because then everyone would understand why it was said that way and everything would be okay and I could go back to not being embarrassed. When we are saying that, what we're really saying is, I wish people understood the intention. Now, when you ask a buyer the backstory to a deal or the backstory to a purchase or the backstory to a decision that they're about to make, it allows you to understand them on the level of intention, not just the surface level of a transactional conversation going back and forth. When you understand them on intention and they know that you understand them on intention and you have a good context for why the deal is being closed or why the purchasing decision is being made, then ultimately they get to understand that you get them. You've heard them out. You've really, truly understood them. You've had 2 ears and 1 mouth and you've used them in that ratio and in that order. So that's the first question. What's the backstory? Tell me a bit about the backstory going on with this one. What led you to this point? Really killer question. Second question we want to ask in really good discovery is C, what's the challenges? Okay, so we've got B for backstory, C for challenges. What's the challenges that you're running into? What are the frustrations you're experiencing? What are the pain points that you're having? What blockages are you running into? Where is this not working for you? And you'll start to understand that your buyer has particular challenges that they're running into, and you'll realize that no good buying decision is ever made without first there being a problem or a frustration to solve. Every good salesperson, every good marketer, every good business leader understands that it exists ultimately to solve problems. The more problems that we can solve for the market and at higher rates and at higher responsibilities, the more we get paid, okay? So what challenges are you running into? What frustrations? That's our second question. Third question that we're going to ask is, what are the outcomes that you're looking for? And when we think about outcomes, that's a really simple, straightforward question. What is it that you're looking to achieve? How do you want this to look? How do you want this to be? But what we need to realize here is that our buyer is never buying our product because they want our product. The outcome they want isn't to own our product or service. What they want is what the product or service can give them. They want the outcome of what that product or service is. Fourth question is P. So B, C, O, and then P. The fourth question is, what's the process on your end? Or how much of a priority is this currently at your end in order to make this decision? So the reason we want to ask this is because it gives us an understanding of how they tend to make decisions at their company and allows us to be able to situate our whole sales process around how they currently work. So if you find out that there's Sally needs to talk to Johnny, and then Johnny talks to Jimmy, and then Jimmy finally signs off, then it's important that we're probably looped in with all Sally, Johnny, and Jimmy and making sure they're all taken care of along the deal. If we're just talking to Matt, and Matt's the only one that we've been connected with, and we assume Matt's the decision maker and he pulls the trigger on everything, and we do all our selling and pitching to only Matt, without realizing that Johnny, Sally, and Jimmy exist, then ultimately we're probably wasting a lot of time with someone who wasn't actually the decision maker. So that's our 4 questions, B, C, O, and P. We refer to it as B Cop. If you ever hear of any of our content and we're asking what's the B Cop on this deal, that's always what we're talking about. What's the backstory on the deal? What challenges are they running into? What outcome do they ultimately want? And what's the process on their end / what's the priority of this currently on their end? Trust that helps, something to get the light bulbs ticking. Usually there'll be one of these questions that you're really good at asking, and there'll be one of the questions that you just don't really think to ask or were never trained to ask. We always like to say that all the sales that you're not making are sitting underneath that one question that you're not asking. So ask yourself, out of B, C, O, and P, backstory, challenge, outcome, and process, what's the one question that you're not currently asking enough of? Enjoy.